Welcome to Week in Horror.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The only podcast that will feed your horror need.
The need to feed.
With JL.
Yeah, I'm a fucking masochist. I'll watch that shit.
Eugene.
Somebody has to be the sex symbol, I'm sorry.
Alex.
Shit, I just demonetize this forever.
And Johnny O.
How do you like that shit? Got halfway through the monologue before unmuting myself. Golly, it's one of them fucking days.
With industry guests.
Hi, this is Richard Oakes, Director of Host.
Hey, this is Adam Leader, Director of Host.
This is Matthew Mark Hunter.
I'm Don Anelli.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
And this is Week in Horror.
And you're listening to Week in Horror.
Welcome to prime time, bitch!
News, trivia, and more.
One by one, we will take you.
Join our live show Wednesdays at 7 Central, youtube.com/weekinhorror, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Week in Horror. Stay scared.
All right, what is up? Welcome back, horror fans. It is Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and that means it's time for another episode of the Week in Horror podcast, the only podcast that wouldn't hurt a fly. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, don't forget that you can join us here for our live show on our YouTube channel so that you too can interact directly with the live chat, flex your horror knowledge, and even win some trivia prizes. This week, we're covering select films released in horror history October 17th through October 23rd. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm Alex, and with me tonight are JL and Eugene.
Well, hey, everyone.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah.
Yo.
Oh, I fucking love that our intro trailer. I love it when the Evil Dead line cuts in there. It's my favorite part. The Thing and the Evil Dead lines are my favorites. Man, a couple of things that we need to do first before we kick off these very interesting movies that we're going to be talking about
Good
tonight.
way to put it.
Not saying that they're bad, but they're interesting. There's
like three truths and a lie kind of situation going on. There's three good movies and one just terrible ones.
Let's say before we jump into this, let's see who's in the live chat real quick. Let's say hi to everybody. See, Ryan and Nance is in the house. Is early, laughing my ass off. Good to see you, Ryan.
Did you look at the timestamp on that comment? It says early.
4:53. Yeah, super early. Yeah, super early. And then, of course, Mad Mark is in the house. Good to see you, Mad Mark. Says, is the Hong Kong movie The Seventh Curse? Love that movie. Yes, it is. And, it just reminds me, I got to put up there we go. Got the banner, just our Patreon banner, so people can see our patrons. Well, good to see you, Mad Mark. Travis Brown's in the house. Says, hey, everyone. Hope jail does not spoil anything tonight. I will do my damnedest. But these are old movies. Going back to the 80s, so I think the statute of limitations has run out.
I think the newest one we do tonight is 2009, and if you haven't seen it, you probably never would have even heard about it.
Yeah. Elizabeth Sylvester, so good to see you, hon. I'm glad you're back. Says hello, I'm back. Hope y'all are well. We are doing good. Good to see you. And Mr. Malort says we're waiting. Good to see you, Mr. Malort, one of our amazing patrons. And Daryl M is in the house. Good to see you, Daryl. Thank you so much for joining. And then Boss Keys says, sup, cousin? Sup, Boss Keys? Good to see you. Ivy Gentry's in the house.
What's up, Boss Keys? I know him.
Oh, awesome. And Ivy Gentry's in the house. Good to see you, Ivy Gentry. Mr. Lord says the volume was low on the trailer.
Ooh. There's a volume knob. It's usually
There is a volume knob, but I have it maxed out. Interesting.
Huh.
I don't know. Well, Charlie, I'll see if I can look into that, Mr. Malort. Charlie Welch is in the house, the only man on the internet you never make a bet with. Good to see you, Charlie Welch. Says, hey, folks. Sarcasm's in the house. More of our amazing patrons have joined us. You guys rule, Charlie and Sarcasm. Travis Brown says, I have not seen the first Re-Animator. Well, this will be very, very interesting. But this is an old movie. This is like, classic Jeffrey Combs, Stuart Gordon stuff. So if anything gets spoiled, I apologize in advance. Chris Durham, Music Channels in the house, says, drive by, hello, Week in Horror, have a great show. My guess is Don Knotts in that scary movie that he was in. Was it the Incredible Mr. Limpet or something? That was a pretty scary movie. Good to see you, Chris Durham. And Crafty Keela popped by. Good to see you, Crafty. Says, just jumping in to give some love before sleep. I'll watch tomorrow. Thank you so much, Crafty. We appreciate it. all
Thank
of
you
our so many of our amazing patrons in the house. Thank you so much. So before we jump in, the first thing we're going to do is we have a coin flip to do today. This week is the coin flip week for our Bloodbath debate, and the Bloodbath debate for this month will be the Warlock, Julian Sands from the Warlock series. So I think it was Julian Sands, and there's a third who was it? Bruce Payne, I think, was in the third one. But he will be. But anyway, we're doing the Warlock from the Warlock franchise versus Nyx from Lord of Illusion. So we have two magic wielders in this month's Bloodbath debate. But I have a brand new coin that I got from Texas Frightmare Weekend, which we will be using to do our flip.
Are the words cool. tails, Texas
so I guess,
State heads?
Yeah, I guess so. Like name and logo is kind of what it is. Is kind of, I guess, would be heads and tails, but name and logo is essentially what it is. So this week is between me and Eugene. Eugene will be taking me on after my trouncing of Johnny O last month, because I whumped his ass, and it was quite fun. He didn't stand a chance. He knew he didn't stand a chance. But now Eugene is bringing the heat, and Eugene's actually pretty fucking good. So I'm a little concerned about this one. So this is to decide. Okay, so this is to decide who chooses their villain, correct?
Yeah. So whoever
wins this toss
gets to pick the one.
Okay. So I'll do the flipping. Alex, if you want to give the go ahead.
All right, Eugene, call it.
You're the challenger gets to call, so yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna call tails.
Tails. Okay, so we decided. I haven't flipped it yet, so we've decided that say logo or title.
Oh well, then I'll do title.
Okay, title. So just double check. That's title. That's logo. So
yes.
So you're choosing title, right?
Title with the words.
Words are hard.
Words it is.
Nice.
Ooh. See, so I feel like, because you love the movie Warlock, that's the one you actually want on it.
Is it? Is it the one I actually want?
Is it though? Because if he knows a lot about it, he could poke out the weaknesses pretty easily.
See, so I'm gonna actually go. I'll let you have it. I'll go next. I'm gonna let you have it. So when you lose, you have no excuse.
Okay. All right. So okay.
Shit there.
So he thinks it is. He thinks it's going to work that way. All right. So Eugene is taking Nyx, and I've got the Warlock. All right. And for our patrons who are subscribed to that patron tier, that Bloodbath debate will be available at the top of November. On November 1st, they will get early access to that debate. And to find out who wins between me and Eugene taking Nyx from Lord of Illusions and me taking Warlock. The cool thing about that is I actually have 3 movies. Now, I know the first 2, I got to go back and watch the third one. But I got 3 movies. He's only got 1 to watch, which is why I'm pretty sure he took it, because he's only got to watch 1 movie. It's Lord of Illusions, and I have a trilogy that I have to get through. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Oh, so we got some people already saying, Glober Mom, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Mr. Malord says Warlock, easy. Travis Brown says, oh, Texas Frightmare. Yes, Texas Frightmare, love. Chris Durham says, click the thumbs up like I did and keep watching the live show. I got to go. See you all. I'll see all you ghosts and ghouls later. Later, Chris Durham. Later. And Travis Brown says, no matter what, both sides are Warlock. And Ryan and Nance says, I'm back. And Sarcasm says, I love Barker. Midnight Meat Train still gives me the heebies. I'm betting for Nyx. All in.
Ooh,
very awesome.
The audience is split on it.
Audience is split. So I guess we're gonna leave it up to the debate. I can't wait to do this one. This is how I get my debate. Because I love debating. This is how I kind of like satisfy my need. All right. So now that we've done the coin flip, 2 things that we're going to touch on. Just yesterday, the Scream 5 trailer dropped. What'd you guys think?
It looks good. Don't get me wrong.
You're choosing your words. I will simply say I am, based on the trailer, this trailer alone, because obviously first trailers, I don't think a great representative of what the movie's going to be like. But based on that trailer alone, I'm 70-30 for the film.
That's a safe 70-30 is safe. So the trailer looks good. Like it looks like it's, but like you said, the trailer doesn't necessarily play out how the movie's going to play out. It's the fact that the story is where it's at and where it's going. I'm kind of iffy about how they're going to pull it off, but it looks good. I'll see. I mean, I'll watch it obviously, but I don't know. 70-30 is good. Maybe more like 73, like 37 on that one, just because I don't know. It looks good.
What are you thinking, Eugene?
I'm a little bit more on the 60-40 stance on it. It's kind of cool, the use of some of the new technology when it was like unlocking and locking the doors and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool to see that. And then it plays like, oh, why do you have a landline? This landline comes out of nowhere. But at the same time, how many franchises where the fifth film is really good? I mean, they're out there, but it's
I was about to say Friday the 13th, but that's not true. No, because New Beginning wasn't really that great. It didn't really pick up until part 6. I'm curious myself. I really am, and I'm kind of I don't know what hit me. I'm kind of digging this like Sidney Prescott trains Final Girls kind of thing, and there should be a T-shirt. It should be a T-shirt. It's like Sidney Prescott's advanced school for Final Girls, where she trains
for not getting fucking murdered. Sidney Prescott school for not getting fucking murdered. Yeah.
So I'm curious. I really am. So for those who haven't seen it, the trailer is up on YouTube. It dropped yesterday. It's really not. I wouldn't say so much a trailer. It's really more like a teaser. Because even though it's over a minute long, it really doesn't give much away. No. I do like that everybody came back as like what was he saying? Travis Mounts, I think the Screamcast are great to come back. Yep, it's got David Arquette, Courtney Cox, and Nev Campbell are all returning. Not to mention the I can't remember the gentleman's name. I should have it memorized. The guy who does the voice of Ghostface is back as well. There's no telling where it's going to go in this. Like I said, anytime a Scream movie drops, every time is before you. It's anyone's guess how it's going to go or how it's going to or how it's going to play out, or what the twist will be. Are there multiple killers or what? So I'm curious. It's going to be interesting.
I'm already expecting multiple killers, but I will tell you, if it is like the lead daughter or something, or that lead girl, if she ends up being Ghostface, I'm going to turn the movie off right now.
Like in 4.
Yes.
Well, see, that was what was wild, and the one thing that kind of broke it off for me is, in the previous films, there's always somebody who physically matches the build of Ghostface. So in the first one, Stu and Billy were basically similar in build, and they could, although Stu was a little bit taller, but they were similar in build. But with Ghostface, black costume, running around in the night, it's difficult to tell you, but you can pass that off. In the second one, it was the friend. It was Mickey and Stu's mom, Mrs. Loomis, and also somewhat comparable in height, doing their thing. You only see him. People you only glimpse it, so you can kind of pass it off as well. And then in the third one, it was one killer. It was her half brother. Yeah, it was Sydney's half brother, and that was just one. So that makes it easy to maintain. Now the fourth one was fucked up because Emma Roberts, not that big, and if Emma Roberts was the killer at any one point, that made no. I was like, wait a second. Anybody would notice this short girl being Ghostface. Like, okay, you're obviously shorter than most people, and that one threw me off because Ghostface was always the same height throughout the whole thing, and they were switching off, which it alludes that they were. That didn't make any sense. Which is why Scream 4 just kind of like, you're really, really stretching it.
It was kind of a stretch because do I honestly believe Emma Roberts could stab someone to death? Absolutely. No. I totally believe. No, I'm talking about her in real life. I totally believe that she can stab someone to death in her own personal life. But at the same time, Ghostface is supposed to be able to at least physically match, like pound for pound or something like that. And like, yeah, I believe Emma Roberts can sneak up and kill somebody, but I feel like I could just take her. Like if she popped in my room as Ghostface and tried to stab me, like I could just like lay her out.
Yeah, pretty
then,
much.
like, the movie's over.
Did you hear that, Emma Roberts? Eugene will fuck you up.
All right.
Door kicks.
Awesome. Yeah, if anybody hasn't seen it yet, the trailer is up on YouTube. You can check it out. It dropped yesterday. Definitely give that a look, and let us know what you think. weekinhorror@gmail.com or in the comments below. I see NANA, one of our amazing patrons, has joined us. Thank you so much, NANA. Good to see you. What's up, Alex?
Did you dye your beard pink?
I did, for Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Nice. My hair's finally long enough. I'm chopping it all off and sending it to Locks of Love.
Oh, cool. Very nice.
Had to hit 10 inches. Finally got that.
Nice.
It's the only way I'll ever hit 10 inches.
Alpha K91 says, I'm sorry I missed Dr. Sleep the other day. Had no idea there was a sequel to The Shining. It was good. We did a double feature in the theater in our Discord channel, and I played, actually it was a triple feature. I played The Night House, which just recently came out. Great fucking movie if you haven't seen it. That one was a fantastic little ghost story. And then of course, we did The Shining and followed by Dr. Sleep back to back. And it's amazing watching it back to back. It's very fucking
seriously, it is. It's like the only way to watch it because it's like you slide right into it. It doesn't miss a beat. It's great.
Speaking of sliding right in, Plot Hole asked, who's the cock on the bottom?
What up, people?
Oh, good to see you. NA says hard pass for me, probably on Scream 5. Probably, this is what he's saying. Let me see. Travis Brown says, I wonder how many times Sydney's past is coming back to her. I don't think it involves her past this time. I don't think it does because of just how the trailer played out. But I could be wrong. It could be a red herring. There's lots of red herrings in Scream, so we don't know. Sir Cad says Dream Child was okay as the fifth nightmare. Johnny O will disagree with you, but then again, Johnny O hates all movies. Plot Hole says Sidney Prescott is the killer. Dun dun dun. That would be fucked up. I would so throw something at the screen.
That would be dumb. If she's like, this is a test, and everybody actually comes back kind of like an April Fool's.
that was done.
I would stand up in the theater and applaud for how ballsy the director is to do that.
Good point.
Franchise.
All right. See if we had anybody else pop in before we move on to the next point. Let's see. Mr. Lord says a fun movie on Netflix. Is there someone inside your house? High school serial killer movie.
I just watched it.
I've heard divergent opinions on that one.
I just watched it, and let me tell you, because I'm not going to give anything away, because it's definitely worth a watch. It's like one of those where you're like, oh, wait, oh, nope. Well, maybe. No, yeah, no. And then you kind of, at the end of it, you're like, what? I guess I could have seen it. No, it was just like, yeah, no, it was a ride. It was so over the top, just dead on trope, like, teenage killer movie.
Okay.
But it was good. It was definitely worth a watch.
Travis Brown says, just like Malignant at the ball. Malignant also a seriously divisive film. You either absolutely loved it or you absolutely hated it. And Angela's going to be watching that one for her 31 Days of Halloween. Nice. Every night she watches a new horror film that she's never seen before. So that's on her list. Surf says, darn, YouTube didn't autoplay the stream. Shame. But good to see you, Surf. So glad you're able to join us. And of course, I think... Ryan, let's see. Make sure I didn't miss anybody new. Nope. All right. Looking good. And the last thing we want to talk about is obviously this Friday, because we are recording this because we record this on Wednesday. This Friday, today's the 13th when we record this, but this doesn't go up until this upcoming Sunday. So in between that, this Friday, the 15th, we have Halloween Kills dropping.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm super excited.
I am. It looks awesome. I really enjoyed the 2018 one. I know this is supposed to come out 2000 or come out last year. Stuff happened. I'm really excited. It looks good. I think everybody's looking forward to it except for that one guy who had the petition and the 42 people inside.
That was so cringe. And apparently the response to that was, no, we're not taking it out. It's not happening. And there was actually another petition that went up to shut down the previous petition, which I think is hilarious.
That one got 2 million signatures.
So, yeah, absolutely hilarious. But I'm looking forward to it. And I will do whatever I can to do a stream of the new Halloween Kills in the theater for those who are unable to because of mandates or because of things just still being closed down. Wherever you happen to be, we will do a stream. I will do everything I can to do a stream of Halloween because it's also in streaming. It's on Peacock. I will do everything I can to do a stream of Halloween Kills this Friday in the theater. because I want everybody a chance to get to see it on opening day, and we will try to do that in there. So I will do what I can to make that happen, to get that stream over to our Discord so everybody can have a chance to watch it. So I'm looking forward to that one. It'll be a lot of fun. All right. So those are the big ones we were going to talk about. But what do you think, Alex?
Shit, we're about 20 minutes in. Why don't we talk about some fucking horror movies on this horror movie podcast?
That's what they're here for.
Jill, why don't you start us off tonight?
Yes, I will start us off tonight. I am so grateful that I get to talk about this movie. This film, holy shit. Okay, hang on. Fuck it. I'll just do it here in a minute. When did I start? Let's just kick it off. October 17th, 1986 saw the release of a Hong Kong action horror movie called The Seventh Curse. And I really shouldn't have done that because I just realized I didn't pull up my fucking notes. It really helps.
Especially
if
when
it really helps when you have it up so you can actually talk about the film itself. So, yes, October 17th, 1986, The Seventh Curse released and directed by I gave myself the hard one this time, Eugene. Directed by Lam Nai Kai, based on the Dr. Yen series by Ni Kwang, and starring Chow Yun-fat, Chin Soo-ho, Dick Wei, Maggie Chung, and Sibel Hu.
Well done.
How's that?
You were flexing at that point. That's why you gave yourself that movie.
Fucking A.
It's like, Eugene, look, it's not that hard.
So the plot of this film, essentially, this is based off of a series of a book series, which follows the kind of like adventures of this swashbuckling style, kind of like adventurer doctor, Dr. Young. And in this particular one, he's out on expedition and winds up, being afflicted with this blood curse. And in order to cure the blood curse, he has to return to Thailand to face this cult, which is, oddly similar to the Thuggy cult in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Or no, not Raiders, in Temple of Doom. Oddly similar to the Temple of Doom guys. And the bad guys, the bad gang in Big Trouble in Little China, they dress the same, black and red. And I was kind of like, well, this is really interesting. But he goes back and he goes to take on the bad guy, save the girl, and cure himself of this curse before it kills him. And this movie is straight fucking lunacy. But I will say this, something I have learned. Every film's third act needs Chow Yun-fat rolling deep with RPGs. That's the way it goes. That's every movie needs this because Chow Yun-fat rolled up in there and the third act, like, boom. This shit was fucking great.
I will take Chow Yun-fat shooting and destroying in any movie, hands down. I love it was a movie that came out of nowhere. It's like The Replacement Killers.
Yeah.
Him and Replacement Killers. We walk through the club with Crystal Method playing. It's awesome. You have the one take as a Hard Boiled where they're shooting up in the hospital. I will watch that time and time again.
Bulletproof Monk was actually not too bad either. I'll give him that. Yeah,
it wasn't bad. It's fun. Anytime Chow Yun-fat RPGs, that movie's at least a B. I don't know. There's some bad moments in this film, but right off the bat, I'm like, it's a B. I can go.
So
Sarcasm gets on screen. He goes, ah, and you're like, ah.
Like Sarcasm says, I think I liked it. I couldn't decide whether to laugh, cringe, or get nauseous at any given effect, but I was strangely entertained throughout. And I was, Mad Mark is right. That movie is Evil Dead meets Fantasy Mission Force. So it really is okay. A couple things that I noticed and I had to go and look up some clips after I watched this to kind of confirm my suspicion that the martial number one, there's lots of martial arts. It's a Hong Kong action flick, so there's going to be a lot of martial arts in it. Is that all the same style as Jackie Chan?
No,
because I see Jackie Chan doing the same physicality. That they were doing the way that it's kind of like the and then that kind of stuff. I see that same fight style. See Jackie Chan utilize that a lot, and Jackie Chan is Chinese as well. So I'm I'm assuming that there is I guess it's a kung fu or a style of kung fu that is very similar and uses, or maybe is it just movie making kung fu in order to make it look like like that, but in reality it's not like that. Am I just seeing movie making kung fu? Is that what this is?
So essentially.
There is actually a go-to fight choreographer who is Chinese. He actually did the choreography of The Matrix also. He has done easily a couple hundred movies. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. If you IMDb Matrix, he's the fight choreographer for it. But he did a lot of films from the 90s. He's done a lot of Jackie Chan movies. He's done a lot of Jet Li movies. He is the go-to guy. That's why a lot of these big budget movies utilize him, because of his ability to choreograph fight scenes, which are incredible. Because this is back in a style when we talk about, say, Chinese action films, where martial arts was more like a dance, and it was very elegant, and it was very like you would fight, but it was a pretty style of fighting. I love martial arts movies from the 80s and 90s. Jackie Chan, Jet Li, I've seen almost all of them, and it's this beautiful art to them. So it's kind of like a choreographed dance, and then in the end somebody dies.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Did the main bad guy the sorcerer
Chief Worm, what's his name?
No, it was Aquila. Was his name. Was anybody just put off by that dude's voice? Or the voice that was given to him, like the dub voice? Because this dude comes out, he's the biggest motherfucker in the room. Long ass hair, got the face paint and everything, and he's just like, and now you will know that. I was like, what the fuck?
Your shirt is blue.
This shit was great. It's
like Darth Vader before the voiceover dub.
If I'm like taking this dude, I'm like, I'm sorry, I cannot take you seriously, my man. I can't take you seriously. But I mean, okay, so, but going into it, despite the things that were ridiculous, there was a lot of awesome things about this movie. Number one, the effects not too bad. I found it interesting that the old ancient who was ready when he was the skeleton, when the skeleton popped up, it has the same fight style as everybody else. So it does the same theatrical shit, which I thought was fucking brilliant. And of course, it cracks that dude's head open and slurps his fucking spinal cord. He's like spinal cord out like a noodle. That shit was great. But it is obviously a different approach to American horror. The emphasis on this one was on obviously the violence, the action, and as much as possible. Literally from the get-go, it is nonstop. And exposition is done throughout the story. Now, this was a Chinese horror film that had that was a lot of action in it. But then I've noticed there's a lot of that throughout Chinese cinema. There is exposition, but typically just grabbing people's attention and maintaining their attention is a lot different than our approach there, which I found to be really interesting, because this is the first Chinese film, essentially the first Chinese film that we have looked at Weekend Horror. And their filmmaking techniques, I got to give them this. The way they tell a story, vastly different from ours, vastly different from a lot of people. Not even J-horror is like that, because J-horror is really big on exposition and really selling a moment, and then boom, then they hit you with the scary. Whereas this one was fast and furious, keep going, boom, 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 and then the horror elements are just kind of added in. Everybody just kind of accepts it. It's like, oh yeah, it's a fucking baby demon that's flying through the air. And we just deal with this. It's like, oh yeah, this Chinese mysticism. It was very similar to, I think I have more respect for John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China, and how all of the Chinese Americans that were in it just kind of accepted this magical shit as just everyday things. But the only person who couldn't accept it was Jack and the other Americans. They're kind of like, what the fuck is going on? It's like, oh, it's all good. Black blood of the earth. You mean oil? No, I mean black blood of the earth. It's okay.
No, literally, the earth is bleeding. Just don't touch it.
So I found that the way they tell a story is vastly different. And oh shit, I had a second point there. But oh shit, god damn it.
It'll come back to you when we're talking about the third.
It will come back. But yeah, they're filming. They're filming. Oh yes, and these people doing their own stunts. Holy fuck! I have
the only way to do a movie.
Everybody is doing, the girls, the guys. Everyone's
Does that
doing
have
their
this
own
kind of
shit,
sex
which
and
I
stuff?
was like, holy, even the dude in the giant, like, winged monster, the demon thing is flying around. That's that dude. That's
the dude.
him. And it was
Yeah,
like,
that's
fucking A.
expected in that culture, especially. So you're talking about this film came out in 1986. So this is the height of martial arts films, because martial arts films are not in today. They're just not. One or two will pop out here and there, but back in the late 80s, early 90s, martial arts was huge. People were flocking to the cinema, and as a martial artist actor, you were expected to do your own stunts. Like Jackie Chan comes over here and we're like, oh my god, I can't believe he did. But everybody, that's why you have, like, it was like Jet Li did his own fight scenes. You have Tony Jaa's a little bit later, but Tony Jaa does his own stuff. It's just expected over there. Michelle Yeoh, same time with Jackie Chan, she did all her own stuff. It's expected, and I mean that's why it's such a cultural difference here, because here it's like, well, we gotta protect the actors, we got to make sure nothing happens. We'll get stuntmen who comes in and they can choreograph and they can have the physical ability to do all the fight scenes. Over there it's like, no, you want to be a star, you have to be able to do these fight scenes.
Yeah, it's almost like in the way they tell a story, especially in filmmaking, the way they approach it is very much the art over the capitalism. Because here in America, the filmmaking industry is driven by capitalism. You and I have both. We've all dealt with it to some degree. You're always, you're always dealing with the cost of a thing versus the risk of a thing, and then of course insurance, all that stuff. Now, it's similar over there, but the emphasis over there is put on the art of the actual film, on the actual process itself, and then the money seems to come second. And I've seen this across the board. In whatever it is, we're going to make sure it looks fucking good, and we're going to do it the right way and tell the story the right way. The money will come second, and I just see it as a fundamental difference in the mentality and the approach to the art form.
Well, look at it, JL. If you look at the whole thing from a kind of a bigger picture standpoint, you're looking at China. China is very like their everyday life is based on honor. Mulan, if you want to use like a Disney kind of like, let me draw it out for you. Your honor is everything. Your family honor is everything. And if you go into something and you don't give 100% of yourself to it, it's not a very honorable move. Americans are not honorable in any way. We will do stupid shit for a lot of money and not think twice about it. And that's just kind of how it is over here. But on that side of the world, if you're not putting your soul into it, it's not yours. You haven't, owned it. You haven't taken it. And you see that in a lot of like you're talking about these martial art movies. They will go in there and they will beat themselves. Shit. You're talking about all these actors doing their own stunts. They're breaking bones. They're cutting themselves open. They're not thinking twice. They're going to get this movie done. It's going to be all them, and they're going to feel like they did the best that they could. And you see that. And then you try to add the horror aspect to it with the Chinese mysticism like you were talking about. Mm-hmm. And it all comes so naturally. And that's what you can see this movie, which is why this movie's great. It could have been a terrible movie, but the way that everybody threw themselves into it, and they took every kind of aspect of their culture and threw it into this movie, and didn't like emphasize like J-horror where they're like, here's this creepy leading up moment to the and you're building up the anticipation. You're like out of breath by the end of this movie because you're like excited, and you can tell that they're excited. You're like, yeah, go, kick his ass, woo, yeah. It's like a video game almost. And then you come out the back end and you're like, yeah, everybody did their best, good game, guys. Like
that's what they all end up like that. Like all of them end with like a group shot of the cast. Everybody's happy and smiling and laughing, and then credits. Yep. And I was like, I've seen so many that ended that way.
You got this fucking monster movie with like this. They put it on Wikipedia. They did it the best way. This monster's like a mix between like Rodan and Alien, and like it's so weird. The baby demon thing is
the baby demon thing is fantastic. I don't even understand what happened when they trapped it. They like brought it in, and then they bring out these red things. What the hell is that? You said you needed a cow who was pregnant, so you could get and then sacrifices, so you get the placenta, and then the blood of a black dog. What are you going to do with it?
This is normal.
What are you going to do with it? I know. I learned it from this guy, and I don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to do it anyway. Fuck it.
He says it does, and he's got a cool face paint.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because Chow Yun Fat is the armored personnel carrier for the plot. He is the armored plot carrier in this. This man walking through this movie like he ain't got no stakes whatsoever.
He's Ferris Bueller in this.
I'm literally here to just drive this plot through anything like this. No sweat. Well, we got now the hurdle coming up. Chow Yun Fat rolls in. All right, time to move on to the next thing. Here's the information you need. Here's the shit you need. Here's the MacGuffins that you're gonna need to get through this. And I'll just hang back and do this. And it's like, and then of course he rolls up. Everyone's doing all the fighting. I actually kind of really dug the Buddhist monk, the giant Buddha fight. The giant Buddha fight was really fucking good because all of a sudden these Buddha monks, I kept thinking anger management. I'd never expect this behavior out of a Buddhist, but they are like throwing down. These fuckers are coming out of the damn ceiling. On like rope. That was a fun one. But with the ropes, all the rope fighting and swinging and shit. But then, fucking, why is everyone dusty? Because every time you kick, it's a plume. I know it's an effect. I know it is, but it's like, damn, these some dusty cats.
So the whole thing about the dust plume and the reason why you see it in a lot of martial arts movies is because they want to show proof of contact.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's a whole secret behind it. Is they want to show that, he really got hit.
Oh, they're not doing the fake, like, thing. It's
exactly.
Real. He just got kicked in the fucking chest.
And I will say this: so in some movies, you could tell the wire fu. You look at it. I was quite impressed. 1986. Yeah, and obviously, when they have physical movements that are defying physics, stuff like that. But the editing was really, really tight on this one, and you really couldn't. I mean, because you can see where gravity begins. When you have momentum, but then gravity takes over, and then you'll get like an adjustment, and it's really hard to time those edits correctly. So you can say, I can see where he kind of was like, and then all of a sudden he kind of like begins to drop because gravity's taken over. Then they edit away so you don't see that, and then all of a sudden he's up where he needs to be. This was really well edited. Yeah. It was really well constructed because I didn't see any of that shit. I was like, wire fu. Oh, neat. It actually that looked, and of course you can't see they did a great job of hiding the wires against the background. And of course, editing this thing was very impressive, especially considering the tremendous amount of fighting that was done in this. Like, when Dragon busts into Young's house and like fucks all his shit up, or like really expensive looking stuff. And then they're like, wait, we need to talk. It's like, okay, let's have a chat. Now I'm gonna fuck this girl. Like you told me not to. Because I was like,
well, because the thing is when you think of like martial arts and wire fu and everything, they were doing this like in the early 70s. So when it finally hits the United States, they've been doing it for 20 years. Right. They already know how to cut it. They know how to choreograph it. They know how to do all that stuff.
I have to admit, I thoroughly enjoyed the Seventh Curse. It was good, and I think it's a testament to how much effort and work that Chinese filmmakers put into you can see the passion that they put into it. Even though, this is 1986, so Chow Yun Fat wasn't exactly the giant American name that he'd become. I would say that Hollywood mentality had not kind of like put its claws into his career. Everybody's doing their best, bringing what they can, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Everybody was, I wish I could watch American movies where everybody was just on their game, regardless of the type. Because you do a movie like this in America, it'll be an indie film. This would be just a low budget indie film with some fighting in it, and you can tell the attitude of the major actors could be like, I'm here doing a movie, and I'll give what I need to do and to get my fucking paycheck. And maybe that's it. Maybe because they do make considerably less than American actors do. That they're like, fuck it, man. You just got to keep churning these bad boys out. So you want to keep getting cast because you're not getting paid a lot. So you need to make as many movies as possible. You want to be cast. You got to bring your A game and be professional every single time.
Well, also, when you talk about the mindset, the capitalist mindset, it's not a capitalist country.
Right.
So, they right off the bat, that mindset is completely different, and they will placate. There's a film, it's a 1986-87 film called Meals on Wheels that has one of the most blatant product placements I've ever seen in a film, where Jackie Chan's he's in a car chase, and then a Evo jumps a ramp, goes over off this bridge, and like comes to a complete stop. This old lady gets out, and she's like, "I can do anything in my Mitsubishi," kind of thing. And then it got straight back to the car chase.
It's amazing.
It is completely
the only thing worse is fucking Optimus Prime looking at the camera going, eBay. It's the only thing worse. Yes, Mad Mark said. Yeah, Mad Mark is right. Chow Yun-Fat was like in 9 other movies in '86.
Yeah,
just churning them out. I mean, you talk about like like American actors, even B-list actors are in maybe 2 a year, like 2, maybe 3, and then obviously you get more and more the further down you get. But I've seen people who are like like hardworking actors here in America, and they'll do maybe 5 short films or maybe a feature and a few shorts in a year. 9 feature films in a year. There's no, I mean, that's just the mentality behind it. It's and the way I interpret it, it's for the audience. They're making these for the audience. This is not for themselves. It's not for their careers. They love acting. They love performing, and they're telling a story. And the objective of doing this is to tell a fucking story. Kind of like, you're not gonna run into the situation when Gregory Peck is talking to Alfred Hitchcock, and he's like, I can't. What's my motivation? What is my motivation? Alfred Hitchcock has to go up to him. It's like, your motivation, my dear boy, is your fucking paycheck. So you're not going to run into that with these kinds of. And I mean, after the goofiness of this one, I just said a lot of things I looked at. I was like, you just don't see this in American cinema, not anymore, at least. You know what you did see? You did kind of see it in the old westerns. In the old westerns of the 70s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, you saw that, and I think it's because whereas in China, these like martial arts, obviously a huge aspect of their culture, you'll see the respect paid when you're doing that. In American film, you'll see that same the Wild West, the Old West, is kind of integral to what it is to be to America. That's like a legendary period in time, so you're going to get that level of respect. And I guess dedication to portraying that in a particular way, the legends of the Old West and such.
I would go, if you want to go in terms of comparing it to the Old West, I wouldn't necessarily say like the American West, but I would do the spaghetti westerns, the ones that are filmed in the Italian.
Oh yeah, the Sergio Leone show. Well, they shot them over there. They shot them over there because it was cheaper.
Oh yeah, but there are a lot of productions over there. That, I mean, it was just they knew those they were winners, so you made them.
Shockingly, how much the plains of Italy look so much like you could pass it for like Oklahoma, northern Texas, the Panhandle, some areas of Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico. It was like, holy shit, it really does kind of look like the whole time. But that's why I love those the old school, especially the old school Clint Eastwood stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a lot of it.
Saying old school JL. They just shot Yellowstone here with Sam Elliott because fucking downtown Fort Worth is literally the exact same as it was back
pretty a long time. Yeah. Well, I know Yellowstone. It's got a spinoff. It's got a Texas spinoff called called 6666, which is the 4-6's ranch in Texas. I think is doing. So that should be interesting. I'm looking forward to the new season of Yellowstone coming up in November. But I like this. I mean, and I'm definitely going to be seeking out some more Chinese horror films to see. I want to see. It was kind of, this is the first Chinese horror film that I've actually sat down and been like, I want to watch this because I've spent so much time watching other either I horror, J horror, K horror, American horror, German, French, English. And I was like, what? Never spent any time with the Chinese horror films,
they're hard to find. You got to suss them out.
Yeah.
There is a new one that I wanted to check out, and it might be worth a stream. It's called The Sadness. It comes out this year. It came out this year already. You should look into that one. I wanted to tell you about that before I forgot it.
Sadness, okay.
Yeah, it's like a virus movie for sure.
So definitely interesting, and I love their approach to the genre. I think it's a lot of fun, and you can see their dedication to what the filmmakers and the talent bring to getting their movies done, and they just crank them out. But I really loved it. So I want to ask the audience, because it's such a different style of filmmaking, whether East versus West in this kind of in respect to this. Which do y'all prefer? Do y'all prefer Asian horror, which would include Korean horror, Indonesian horror, Polynesian horror, Thailand, or Chinese, Japanese, Do y'all prefer Asian horror or American horror? The storytelling styles are different. The dedicated, what they bring to a production, obviously, almost a polar opposite to what they do here in America. And those films are arguably, especially the horror films, are arguably, in my opinion, scarier than American ones. But which do you prefer? American or Asian horror? I'm kind of curious. Let us know in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. So, Eugene, you got this next big one.
Pressure's on you.
Yes. So the one everybody's probably been waiting for, we have released October 18th, 1985, and that is Re-Animator. Directed by Stuart Gordon, produced by Brian Usna, starring Bruce Abbott, Barbara Crampton, David Gate, Robert Sampson, and Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah.
And just straight in a nutshell, you have a doctor who creates a serum that's able to reanimate the dead. No matter how fucked up they are, it can still reanimate dead tissue. Not quite like a zombie Resident Evil style, but in its own fucked up way. And shit gets real.
You're fucking kidding.
Fucking love this movie.
Oh, seriously. And like you can go anywhere and find 150 people that would say that this was their best favorite horror movie ever. Probably one of my favorite like Lovecraft interpretations for sure. You got everything in this movie. There's gore, boobs,
gory
boobs. Just like it's
decapitated cunnilingus.
It's fun.
Let's just throw that one out there. Decapitated cunnilingus.
2 words that should never ever be put.
2 words that should never be. Well, I mean, there's another film that I saw, Decapitated Fellatio. So I have seen that in a horror film before. Oh yeah, Decapitated Fellatio.
That was in Billy's film.
Oh really?
Yeah, Circus of the Dead.
Oh well, it's not in another movie. It was about fucking Dark Ride, which is one of the after dark, the after dark horror films. It was about this dude in this carnival, this dude in like this amusement park who like wears a mask and he uses a slasher film. And there's one scene where the girl's going down on the guy and he decapitates her and he's like, oh yeah, this is great. He just like fucking straight decapitates her while she's going down on him. And he's like, and it's just her head and he leaves her head in his hands. He's like, yeah. Oh. So, yeah. But in Re-Animator, yes. I'm so conflicted about this. But yeah, but Decapitated Cunnilingus. We'll just throw that one out there.
Fuck yeah, and it was funny, and it was slashery, and it was Lovecraftian as fuck. And yeah, no, this is all around. You can't. I think this is the only one that you could take every single like possible kind of trope in that and put it all into one movie and make it work.
Well, it was a perfect storm.
It really was.
Yeah, it really was.
With Gordon Stewart, who is ostensibly one of the best. Given he loved adapting Lovecraft. He did it a number of times with not only this one, but From Beyond, with Dagon, a number of he loved adapting Lovecraft, and of course Brian Yuzna, who followed in his footsteps. Or actually, it was Brian Yuzna who gave him his shot, and then Brian Yuzna went off, started doing his stuff like with Society and shit like that. And then of course. Jeffrey Combs. I mean, Jeffrey Combs, Barbara Crampton, the two character actors who would go on to just be like seminal horror figures. I mean, only Jeffrey Combs. Who's gonna believe a talking head? Get a job in a sideshow. The way he that's my favorite line in that whole book because it's just he's a talking head. He's reanimated. He's just like, who's gonna believe a talking head? Get a job in a sideshow. Fucking love the way he drops that. It's a perfect storm of horror. Everything in this and everybody, it was kind of like very similar to the previous movie we were talking about. You see that dedication, that love that everybody's got for the project. No matter how insane it is, no matter how, maybe it is because of the insanity of it. And just, this is going to be nuts and people are going to go fucking wild. And you see how much they loved playing those. Obviously, Jeffrey Combs, a huge fan of Lovecraft. You could see the love he had playing Herbert West. and because he pulled nuance from that story to really give the character the edge that it needs. And I mean, you don't get better than this. I mean, rarely do you get better than this.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things because it doesn't exactly purely fit in a certain genre, and I feel like a lot of the best films ever made aren't trying to go for tropes for a certain genre on it. When you think of movies like Psycho, when it came, slasher wasn't a thing at all. Ever. And Alfred Hitchcock's like, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this. I'm going to break the rules. And it felt like Re-Animator did the same way, where it's like, I don't care what genre you would fit this. You can call it whatever you want. This is the film that I want to do. And what it is it works in the nuance and the details on it, because the best films have an eye for detail. The little work. When it came to the body horror, the gore, practical effects. I don't know how many people are on this makeup team, the special effects team. It could have been 100 people, and they were all fucking good.
Yes, absolutely. There's still some things I looked into it. I wanted to know how some things they pulled off, because some of it is puppetry, some of it is very well done costuming effects, but even some of it's kind of like, some of it I'm still kind of wrapping my head around. The shit that they did in this was some of it I couldn't find any like inside details, except for some scant bits and pieces here and there, like some obvious scenes when he's talking to the head that you can obviously see how they did the head, the decapitated head on the other. Those are easy to make out, but some of it was wildly impressive and not as obvious. I mean, you think about stuff, you compare things like Nightmare on Elm Street, which arguably wanted to push the envelope. Wes Craven was pushing the envelope when it came to the special effects of basically showing the dream realm and what Freddy Krueger could do in the dream realm. This one, same thing, all practical effects, no CGI in this one, and I'm still kind of like, wow, as to what they pulled off.
But
I mean, Gordon and Yuzna. I mean,
it's not. How do you put this? It's like perfectly unrealistic. The effects were, they weren't supposed. There was so much blood. There was so many like guts that like it was clearly unrealistic. But they did the shitty gore well, and like every aspect of it. And you're like, wow, that's a lot of blood. But like, it's not like, oh, that's like a cheesy amount of blood, and I didn't like it. It was like, holy shit, that's a lot of blood. And it's like, it's perfectly unrealistic. I don't know if a lot of movies try too hard, like the slashers, like Freddy. I mean, and it's just like they try to be like super realistic, and it ends up being like, oh, that's not real. It doesn't even look real. You take that. I know that it's not going to look real, and you fucking do everything that you can to make it exciting.
I got a real. Did anybody else get a kind of a Thing vibe going back? Because I went back and watched it again, and knowing what I know, because I haven't watched Re-Animator in a while, Re-Animator in years. So I wanted to go back and rewatch it, just refamiliarize myself with Jeffrey Combs, because I love Jeffrey Combs, a huge fan of him, and I love how there's nuances of Herbert. I think he thinks of himself as a little more, kind of Herbert West in reality, because I see little things that Combs does in all of his performances. It's like, oh, I think that's the man. I think that's him. It's just kind of the way he is, which I think is pretty sweet. But I got kind of Thing vibes, almost Rob Bottin in this. And the amount of what they went through, because what I discovered is very similar to this. If you're just watching, Re-Animator, and you don't really focus on the supreme details of the gore and the horror, it's really stomach churning. It's like, holy fuck, and you're like, God damn, it's just nonstop. The same thing goes in The Thing, but with The Thing, if you focus way too hard on the details, you can kind of see the practical effects. Like, I see this, I see this. If you start like freeze framing and looking at different things, you're kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Like, you see cool stuff like, when Childs in The Thing was going to burning the thing when it was up in the ceiling, and then that big mouth thing opens up. You realize it's like, wow, that looks fucking freaky and weird when you're watching it. But you start looking at the details, you realize that each one of those pink things was actually a dog tongue, and they were connected by dog tailbones, which is weird. But then you recognize what it is. You recognize the practical effect. It's like, I see what they were trying to convey, and you can see it. The same thing goes for this one. So it is about just trying to enjoy it for what it is and not going too deep in that. As long as you just kind of like watch it. And I got that same feel, same as I got from The Thing, same as I've gotten from a number of other movies where they really pile on the practical effects, which I think was just a hallmark of the 80s, which I think is cool. And one thing that makes them really, really good.
And see, the thing is like, I agree when Alex was talking about how it's perfectly imperfect. It's when you try to go too realistic and then you don't achieve it, it looks faker than if you just went cartoon wise. Because sometimes I feel like they just went the cartoon route of, we're going to more or less have fun. You can tell it's intestines. You can tell it's lungs. You can tell it's a heart and all this other kind of stuff. And I think of it more like video games, where when games started really trying to be realistic, like in the early 2000s, and then we look at them today and you're like, man, that looks terrible. But when you get video games from the late 80s or early 90s, they just hold up just fine. You can play Sonic the Hedgehog again, and it doesn't bother you because it's so cartoonish on it, or Mario or something like that. And that's one of the reasons why this movie holds up so well, because they didn't go for the perfection.
And I think it also stands out that the performances in this, obviously Jeffrey Combs, Dan Abbott, Barbara Crampton, David Gale, all of them did. I mean, they were well. I mean, you wouldn't expect that level of commitment, that level of acting in a film of the intensity of, I guess, of the gore and the practical effects that are in this and the story that's being told. Typically, you don't expect that kind of acting. You don't expect that level of I guess, the ability to deliver exposition in that respect. Less concentration is put on the performers than it is on trying to make a gory, scary movie. But the ability to act, the ability to have excited talent who are willing to go and tell your story correctly, who are willing to do this and be professionals about it and really try to sell it and sell it to the audience. That's as important as making your movie look good, which is why The Thing works so well. And I keep referencing back to The Thing because there's so many hallmarks there. Fantastic effects that are perfectly imperfect. The level of dedication on the effects side and on the acting side, the entire cast of The Thing, every single one of them, believable, and their interpersonal relationships. We see something established here, and then the same thing goes in this one. The relationship between Herbert West and Dr. And Kane. The relationship between West, Kane, and Hill, and Barbara Crampton's character, Megan. All of it, well done. Actors that trust each other, that can tell a story, and are simply focused on doing that. Oh God, fuck! This movie is so goddamn good.
This showcases Stuart Gordon's ability, because that means he sold them the story. So the fact they wanted to go to this lengths, which is something George Lucas couldn't even sell Star Wars to Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, and Harrison Ford, because they thought it was a comedy the entire time. They did. They thought it was a comedy until they actually saw it and like, oh, this is a serious film. On it. So Stuart Gordon being able to go, listen, this is not going to be just a gore fest. This is not going to be, because obviously it's 1985 and slash and all this other kind of stuff. This isn't going to be your run of the mill. Instead of college students, we're going to have doctors, and then a bunch get killed and everything like that. Stuart Gordon sold them on his vision, and everybody bought it.
Love it. Fantastic stuff. And I actually kind of dug that I wasn't able to find out a bunch of things about, like find out some of the bigger details as to some of the practical effects. I like having it. I still kind of dig that part of me, that kid in me still kind of loves the mystery as how the hell did they pull that off? And because, nowadays we figure out, how things are done so much, obviously in retrospectives and behind the scenes and, commentaries on the DVD. Oh, they pulled this off. This was actually really, really simple. They just did this. And it was like, oh, gotcha. Okay. But I like that some of it is still hidden. That, and obviously, director Gordon passed away a little bit ago. And some of the, I think some of those tricks of the trade, went with him. And I don't think Brian Yuzna is talking, because you want to, there's things like you agree, Eugene, there's things you keep in your playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the magic of filmmaking, and we're all trying to. We want the behind the scenes. How did you do this? And you have DVD special features and these featurettes and all stuff on YouTube. Yeah, it's like all this other kind of stuff. It takes away from the magic, and this is when Christopher Nolan did Inception, especially when you had Joseph Gordon-Levitt going to the hallway with zero gravity, Nolan refused to show how he did it. You had the rotating hallway, that was a cool effect, but all the other zero G stuff and they're floating around and all this other kind of stuff, Christopher Nolan refused to diverge how he did it because we lose something. When you reveal how it's done, it's no longer magic.
And then it's like, ah.
That's all you see.
It's the same thing with Interstellar. It's the same thing with Interstellar. The rotation scene, the matching rotation scene, because that, I mean, you look at it as far as actors go, to try and recreate that I don't know how many G's that they were taking. They were trying to do 68 rotations per minute, and so they're going fast, trying to match the rotational speed so that they can dock the docking scene, and trying to imitate that. I don't know, because when Anne Hathaway's character passes out, when Dr. Brand passes out, her body reacts as though she's still under the effects of those G.
Yeah, because she's like this.
But the way it was doing that wasn't wires. Your body doesn't react that way because the gravity is still affecting you a different way. That, I mean, as far as I can tell, she was spinning. So I don't know. I hope that I never find out how they pulled that off, because, and of course, you can tell by McConaughey's physicality how the G-forces are hitting him when he's like, and he's pinned up, because you can see the blood rushing to his face, like inside of his head, and it's kind of like you can see that color shift.
Everything is not all right.
And I'm like, how I'm keep it a secret. That's what makes sometimes filmmaking cool, and I dig it. And of course, Re-Animator, Stuart Gordon, love him. I miss him. I'm so glad we have his body of work and his love for Lovecraft and adapting it and bringing it to audiences, even if it remained kind of independent. But I'm glad that there was a director out there who was like, fuck when anybody says, I'm adapting this stuff and I'm going to fucking do it. And Brian Yuzna come along and was like, you know what? I love this dude's passion, because that was why Yuzna gave him the shot. It was like, he loves the source material. Holy crap. He's got vision. He knows what he wants to do. He just needs the opportunity, and Yuzna gave him the opportunity.
And this is why I say Stuart Gordon, his ability to sell that, because you sell it to the cast, you sell it to the makeup team, you sell it to Brian Yuzna. Hey, he's like, all right, I'm going to give you the shot. And everybody who was a part of this film bought into Stuart Gordon's vision, and that's why it's amazing.
Fucking A.
It is. Now, Re-Animator is actually part of a trilogy, because you have Re-Animator, and then you have Bride of Re-Animator, and then Re-Animator Beyond.
It was Beyond Re-Animator, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, Beyond Re-Animator. The one that takes place in the prison. That one on it. And I actually want to ask the audience. I know we talked a lot about Re-Animate. We didn't go too much into the second and third one, which we will when they come up on the podcast. Trust me, we'll dive into those much more, because they are fantastic to watch. I actually want to ask the audience, what is your favorite in the Re-Animator trilogy? They're all solid, but which one peaks above them all? Because you can kind of make an argument for all of them on it. So what is your favorite of the Re-Animator trilogy?
Definitely. Well, we got a couple new people that jumped in. I want to make sure that I say hi to them real quick. See, Nerd Journal's in the house. Good to see you, Nerd Journal. Tony Regime popped in. Good to see you, Tony. And Jinju, good to see you. Awesome people. There were a bunch of our patrons in there, and a bunch of, I see some new people like that. Fantastic. And UKPI, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Awesome. Just want to make sure that we say hi to everybody. Yes, if there were 1,000 people in the live chat, I'd probably try and say hi to everybody, because I'm just worthless like that. I mean, I want to say hi to everybody because I love seeing everybody in the chat, and it's fucking amazing.
Awesome. I do look UKPI. Re-Animator was Frankenstein and zombie movies on steroids. Great stuff.
Oh, hell yeah. Yes. That was perfect. Great for the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
I don't know if we got a chance. I think we skipped over Elizabeth Sylvester in the beginning. I was meaning to shout out to her. Thanks for joining us in the chat there. I saw you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay. We have 2 more movies to get to. Alex, what do we got next?
Ooh. Let's do a weird one. Not as weird as the next one.
Not as weird as the next one, but this was
This was a pretty
the style of it was fun. We're talking about God Told Me To, came out October 22nd, 1976. This was written and directed by Larry Cohen, starring Tony Lo Bianco. You got to say it all like Italian, though. Tony Lo Bianco, Deborah Raffin, Sandy Dennis, Sylvia Sidney, Sam Levine, Robert. These are fun names. Robert Drivas. No, sorry, these are all super foreign. But anyway, so this and Mike Kellen. So this movie was strange. Leave it up to jail to find the weirdest fucking movies out there.
Fucking A.
And so this movie inspired...
Just wait till I have you watch Tokyo Gore Police.
The what?
What? Just keep going.
So, anyways, this movie follows
weirder than Tetsuo the Bullet Man.
Yes, we've been there. We've done that. Anyways, this movie follows a city in chaos as people are kind of just shit. It starts out with somebody sniping people from a tower with a 22. And then he is confronted and he makes a statement that God told me to, and decides to jump from the tower. And from that point, more people are influenced by this outside force to commit murder, heinous crimes, all kind of saying the same thing. God told me to. And the person that is investigating this kind of starts to feel the pull himself, and just worst fears are confirmed. No, it's interesting. It's not terrible.
The first thing that struck me on this one, I have to honestly say, I think that this film was ahead of its time, and it addressed some things. And you know what? Going back and watching it, this film came out in '76.
Yeah.
It was just shy of, I think, it was just over 10 years earlier. Charles Whitman committed the attack at UT Austin.
Yeah, from the bell tower. Yeah.
And I was like, it was a decade, but that was still a thing that people were keenly aware of. Was that somebody went up there and just started shoot people, and of course, that Whitman actually had a brain tumor that had essentially compromised his reasoning and rationality, and. But that was still, people were still keenly aware of that. That was huge national news event. And then this movie made use of that. Opens up with that, bringing back all that to really set the tone. So, and then of course, when you look at it, this is 1976. Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out just 2 years before this,
right?
And this is just 16 years after Psycho. So, looking at how it bridge the gap, and something that not only that using the Charles Whitman image, the kind of imagery there with the sniper shooting at people, but also it was 1967. I think it was 67. This is 76. It was 74. And I want to double check those dates because this illusion is very important. And I had to go and I had to look it up because I had not thought of it in this respect. It was 1976. The Chris Claremont era of X-Men started in 75. And I was remembering that, just from when I was a teenager and I was a huge comic book lover. And it was something that was ringing in my mind. I was like, oh, wow, this is like, the psychic. This is the psychic using their abilities and telling people in their heads to, God told me to, because they're hearing a voice from this individual with the psychic abilities. I was like, well, that would be kind of like, if Charles Xavier had gone insane, or Jean Grey had gone insane, or some psychic person. And literally the Chris Claremont era, which began in 75 and is considered by many comic book fans to be like the greatest of the X-Men runs, was Claremont's take on the franchise. And then all of a sudden we have this real world, essentially taking from real world, art imitating life in that respect. And I think that I couldn't shake that influence off me, not to mention X-Men, Marvel Comics, And then, of course, the finale at the end of God Told Me To, bringing in the kind of shit.
Hermaphroditic alien. That was
it was intriguing, and I think that there was. I couldn't find it. This was just something that hit me. I couldn't find anything off of that to kind of confirm it. But I think it's just the coincidence is just a little too strong. In my opinion, I think that there's I couldn't find a link between the writer and anything in comics or anything in nature. But maybe he was a comic fan. I don't know, and he saw that. Hard to say, but I found it to be really, really interesting. This concept of things outside of us, the other. Once again, going back 1976, going back to the other being the people that are different from us, people who have these capabilities, and why we should be afraid of them. Because they're unpredictable in that nature. These hallmarks ran through the whole film. Then, of course, the alien, the outsider, not of us, not human, bringing that in.
One of us.
One of us.
Did you get lost?
I mean, it's interesting the fact because it starts off with the shooting, and which is really weird fact about the Marine Corps. So Charles Whitman actually learned to shoot in the Marine Corps, and though it was a huge tragedy about the bell tower and I think it killed 20 people and stuff like that, something that's really kept on the table is the Marine Corps is still really proud they taught him how to shoot. They're like, well, but look at his accuracy.
Look at
really weird culture thing, really weird thing in the Marine Corps, but the Marine Corps is actually kind of proud of it. Just interesting fact about.
I don't know if you should have told America that.
Just really weird, interesting fact about that. But interesting pacing on it, and it kind of brings up the idea of when you start thinking about like psychic powers and how you can influence. You take Charles Xavier and how his power over people, and it's like, what if Charles Xavier was evil? Because he's such a good guy. He's one of the most powerful mutants out there. That's the dichotomy of his character. He has such a powerful mind, but his body's crippled on it. But he's good. He's always believes in people and also tries to make everybody get along and be better.
His legs might not work, but his heart never stops.
But it's like, what if he influenced? What if he instead used that to kill people?
And then there's interesting people bringing up interesting stuff. So yeah, like the movie Scanners. Yeah, Tony Regime's right. Scanners also had similar elements with the psychic power stuff. We watched what was the movie? Dr. Sleep had elements of people being able to push people into doing things against their will. That concept, the concept of pushers, that was all. That's a trope that's been around for forever. Across the board in multiple genres, the idea of being pushed or being coerced to do something against your will. Travis Brown was like, also it talked about how people in cults are following orders from their leaders. There's a lot. That's why I consider this movie to be ahead of its time, and why it wasn't so grandly accepted. Like right off the bat, it's more of a cult, more of a kind of a cult film nowadays. But the reason, number one, it was stylistic. The style in which it was shot, kind of against the grain. You just didn't see movies that were shot in this style. And number two, it drew upon a lot of real events, things that people were still smarting over or still had real strong memories of at the time. And I think, that's what good horror does, in my opinion. And I think for a lot of people, it may have been too real.
It is very real. It was only, like you said, 10 years after the bell tower thing. And, JFK had just been assassinated, I guess, about 10 years or 13 years before that. But
1963.
So, yeah. So, if you were to take, I know it was a huge tragedy and it's not really comparable in the number of deaths.
At this time, 76. Vietnam was just over, wasn't it?
Yeah, Vietnam ends in 75.
A year prior.
But if you were to take something like 9/11 and made a movie about it now and used it in like a horror film, it would still be too early, and that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's like, you take stuff in that real life horror stuff, and you're really, really putting yourself on the line there, But I don't think it overdid it. But that's, again, 63 to 75 was a long time ago for us now.
very similar to The Thing. One of the things that really hurt The Thing when it came out. Why am I always referencing The Thing? Because I fucking let the fucking poster's right there. So I always reference that one of the things that hurt it so badly was it was 1982, and it was right at the height of when the AIDS epidemic. The AIDS epidemic was starting to gain traction, and people were suddenly aware of it. This idea that something was hiding in people that you couldn't detect and you couldn't tell. You didn't know who was dangerous and who was not. And some people could be infected. They wouldn't even know it. That was ringing true at the time The Thing hit theaters. The concept of something dangerous hiding within you, and you might not even be aware of it, and you could be a danger to everybody around you, and the paranoia of that rang way too true for many, many audiences. And it's just the idea was kind of like when the early reviews came out, it's sick and gross and disgusting, this alien, that was way too much for some people. National headline news, and all of a sudden you're watching this, or you don't want to be people didn't want to be reminded of that, but it was that is what makes good horror, which is why The Thing is what it is today. The same thing goes with this one, only a little less known because I think it was a little bit more stylized than movies like The Thing, whereas like The Outer Limits. Like the original Outer Limits, I got a real Outer Limits vibe from this one.
Yeah.
Well, see, and that's the thing when it comes to, one of the great things about horror is it can tie into like real life fears, but at the exact same time, you have to kind of be conscious of what's going on, because like going back to the 9/11 example, they made a 9/11 movie like in 2005, 2006, directed by Oliver Stone, and it bombed.
It's super bombed.
It just bombed bad because it's 5-6 years after what had happened. And then there's even a United 93 that I think that did okay. It was a good movie on it, but there are certain things I wouldn't reference. I wouldn't do a 9/11 tie into a horror film. I wouldn't do a school shooting tie into a horror film. I wouldn't do any kind of a theater shooting. Any kind of, you had the attack at the club down in Florida that has really big in the LGBT community. That shooting is like 50 people killed. I wouldn't tie in a horror film to that. I just, maybe 20, 30, 40 years from now, maybe those could work. But right off the bat, if you tie into the wrong thing or you tie into something that's too soon, you're going to shoot your film right in the foot.
You have no audience at that point. And if you're just trying to make art and you're trying to get your film in the in the basket and be done with it without, worrying about a monetary side of it, fine. Make your art, but make sure that you let people know that it's going to be kind of graphic. It's going to hit a different way, and then then you'll be okay. But
interesting from the live chat, Travis Brown is also based on the Charles Manson's, the Manson family murders.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, about how cults were starting to come up at this time, and how the cult thing was terrifying to people because you never knew it was normal people, especially with like the Charles Manson stuff. You start getting into like, these are your neighbors, these are people that you thought you knew, and these like lost children of the 70s, if you will, were starting to follow whoever the fuck came up and was like, I'm the badass, follow me and I'll give you everything you ever wanted. And this cult started coming out. The Charles Manson is played a lot because it's like you said, it's your next door neighbor. It's like, it's your best friend. You never know. And then all of a sudden they're stabbing somebody.
When Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's the girl sitting in the passenger seat next to you.
Exactly. You never know. And this was so, cults were around, but it was starting to become kind of glorified at this point, towards the late 70s. Then you start getting serial killers and, into the 80s, and this new concept of like, I'm going to get brainwashed by this guy. And, everybody's out to brainwash me. Everybody was kind of terrified. It was like a reefer madness, but it was like a cult madness. It's something that I followed a lot, but you never know. The cop in this movie that was like, he was starting to feel like he might be influenced from the outside. Am I a good guy? Am I a bad guy?
The Jim Jones stuff was just going on. I mean,
that's
because he died in 78, so that shit was happening. I don't know. I have to look at when he moved his followers down to South America before the big, the mass
before he bought about Nikes.
And that was, it was hot. It was hot news. I mean, it was national news at the time, and people were keenly aware that these things were going on. Not to mention, I think 76, you also had the the Zodiac killings going on as well that were taking place up in Northern California at the time. So yeah, wild time to draw on these, and especially the violence. And then of course, Sarcasm brought it up, which is an interesting connection considering a previous movie we talked about a couple weeks ago. But if you dismiss the idea of psychic powers and look at it more like Saint Maud, where it's all upstairs, it's an amazing look at one cop slide into insanity and delusion.
It's an interesting take.
Yeah, if you take the cop as being the unreliable narrator, and
if you cut the end out of it, it would definitely follow that super closely.
Because the way it closes up at the end, him under like that, why? Because God told me to do it.
I am God, the hermaphrodite.
Well, see, so like I think a better version of this story is closer to Frailty, where you have Bill Paxton and he's receiving visions from God on who he should kill. And that one, because it still has a little bit of a stylized element and is told from one of his son's perspectives. To me, Frailty is more effective than God Told Me To.
Until in Frailty, when it's confirmed that Matthew McConaughey has psychic powers. In that film.
Exactly. So,
you're gonna do what I say.
An alien comes down and
it's like, oh, gee, I was like, that's. And I can see that, especially with the Bill Paxton character, because at that point, it's told from his kid's perspective, watching their father. We can't really confirm that anything that Paxton's dad, the dad character, is seeing at the time is correct. This could be in his head because we're seeing it through the eyes of the skeptical son and the son who wants to believe.
Right.
So, which lends itself well to the third act in that. Oh, look, Sean Alexander. I almost said it again. Sean Alexandri. Sean Alexander's in the house. Says, greetings, Moral. Good to see you, Sean. I almost did it again. Alexandri. So, but it's interesting, and I really enjoyed this one. One thing that. And Mr. Andrat. Good to see you, Mr. Andrat. One thing that really stood out to me was the style of the film. And I think set it apart, which is why I will still say that the film was ahead of its time. People were not able to embrace it and see it for what it was because the film was overshadowed by a lot of real things going on, things that people were keenly aware of, and it was just too much. And even the ending, the very sci-fi where it goes is like, this is a weird kind of like supernatural thing into the sci-fi ending. Even that one just couldn't pull it away, and people were just kind of put off by it, which unfortunately happens sometimes. But that just means we get to go back and we get to look at it now and look at it and say, this was a decent film. And I have to admit, the acting was not bad either.
No.
I enjoyed it. I thoroughly did.
Yeah, I mean, timing plays a huge part in it. You had one of the biggest timing riffs was the film Space Camp, starring Leah Thompson. They filmed it, and they were about to release it. For those who've never seen Space Camp, it's about the kids go to space camp. They have a test booster run in a shuttle, and through an accident, the shuttle actually gets launched into space. Well, they're just about to be done with post-production, and then the Challenger incident happens. Yeah. And like the film is in the can, it's already been cut and about ready to be released. And it's like a month or two before it gets released, the Challenger explosion. So now anything about a shuttle accident is complete taboo. And the film's paid for. And so they had to pull the trailer out of theaters, and they just did a real quiet release. And they're like, they quiet release like a year or two later, and they just accept the fact they're going to have losses on it. And Space Camp is actually a really good movie. I grew up with it.
Kind of reminiscent of Boondock Saints.
Yeah,
because Boondock Saints got delayed by the events in Columbine. The idea of vengeance, vengeance, violence, and taking the law into your own hands and meting out justice the way you see fit, regardless of what the law says. And then the disagreements, and then of course the topical disagreements, people who agree with the Saints' actions, the little interviews at the end made that, it was 1999, made that a little too topical considering what happened in Colorado. So, and that one got pushed as well. So yeah, and so of course, for example, The Thing didn't get pushed and it suffered greatly in theaters. The same thing went for this one, did not do very well. and just people put up. But like I said, it's like an awesome version of this is what the Outer Limits would be if it was willing to push the envelope and go full bore. But it felt very like a very cool version that was like, oh, I could definitely see this, like the Outer Limits, in the perspective of what it dropped, because it pretty much touched on everything that they like to touch on, topical events, but they had the feature film leeway to make it as graphic as possible. So I dug this one. I really did.
So let me ask you this. Now that we've been desensitized by the amount of fucking bullshit we've been through in our lives, would this be something you could kind of dig into and still make it work? There's not a whole lot. We talked about Saint Maud. There's not a whole lot of psychic horror in the aspect of it being focused solely on what's going on in the head of, of the person that's either affected or psychic. I guess the way that this is looking at it is it's following the victims of this being, this entity. Do you think they could kind of play into it a little bit harder now? Do you think, like you said, it's before its time or ahead of its time? Do you think now's the time?
I think possibly. I think that if you're talking about like a remake of the film or retouching it, I think it could.
I don't know if you could go full bore remake without making it like a Pokemon movie and it being like Mewtwo. Because technically that's all I could think of when towards the end of the third act of this film was just like, oh, it's Mewtwo in the Pikachu Pokemon movie. What did we lose? Who are we talking to?
Oh no, I was adjusting. I was editing something in the script. So
okay. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think this was probably ahead of its time, and as Eugene said, timing played a big role in this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
With the stuff like the cult stuff and the shootings and stuff, people didn't get over that kind of stuff as quickly. I don't want to say like I said that we're desensitized. This stuff has happened a lot in our lives. We take one event, we kind of we absorb it, and we move on in our own way. Back in the 70s and the 60s, it was a lot harder. Things affected a lot of people for a lot longer.
Yep.
And the scares would go on for decades. And so kind of running into this one, timing and stuff really played a role. But now it's definitely worth a watch far enough down the road. But that's what I want to ask the audience. If you've seen this in the live chat, let us know. If not, give us a shout, weekinhorror@gmail.com. Would a remake of this movie be warranted? Do you think we could pull it off in today's climate as opposed to kind of the sensitive, touchy-feely late 70s climate?
I think in this day and age of superhero films, I think you could.
I think you do better now.
Yeah, I think it would actually do better now.
I think you could pull off the superhero trope and make it better now than
wouldn't you have to go into like superheroes, just like someone with those capabilities, someone with those powers? Wouldn't have to be a part of wouldn't have to be a verse film. It would just have to you could just play it, and people are primed for it. They're looking for that stuff, and I think you could do a remake of this one. I think it would be interesting, especially set in modern day with modern technology. Because one thing you notice is that response times, the tech they have, the weaponry they have, everything they've got here is obviously very, very dated. Nowadays, it'd be a hell of a lot different and a lot more interesting, given the technological responses that we have, in 2021 as opposed to 1976. So
you'd have to be really careful not to make it kind of shadow. What the fuck is that Mark Wahlberg film? The Happening? Yeah, that's the one with the plants, right?
Oh, Tony Regime says it was done in season 1 of Jessica Jones.
It's true.
This is true. Yeah, Kilgrave. There's a lot of mentions of Kilgrave in this.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Yep.
It's watch out for Mark Wahlberg Happening type films, and Bird Box. Bird Box was good, but
what? No.
Yeah, just being forced into committing just gruesome acts of violence. And we'll give The Happening though. The lawnmower scene was like,
Yeah, that was the best part.
Yeah, pretty rough.
It was pretty rough. Yeah, let us know. Remake this film. weekinhorror@gmail.com. Live chat. Hit us up on Facebook. Go to JL's house. You can actually get his address out of one of these episodes, I think.
No, you can't.
I'll give it to you. Just DM me.
Why are you putting that evil on me?
You're gonna have to go through everything. All right, JL,
All right.
take it home with some motherfucking Willem Dafoe. Speaking of Boondock Saints,
Motherfucking Will. See, you like how I did that? You like how I segued it
in? He's always been there.
He's always there. Because Willem Dafoe is a state of mind. You realize that, right?
Absolutely.
So yes, we are going to jump into our last film, released October 23rd, 2009. We have the film Antichrist. I've been so looking forward to talking about this one. Directed and written by Lars von Trier, starring Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg. The film follows how to really break this one down in the simplest state. The film follows a psychologist and his wife, or psychiatrist and his wife, who are currently dealing with the death of their child. And no amount of therapy is helping the wife. So the husband takes it upon himself, and as someone with a psychology background is completely and totally, no therapist worth their salt would do this, but he intends to take her therapy on himself. And so they go up to the secluded cabin in the woods, where they then proceed to try and help his wife work through the trauma of losing their child. And I guess the apocalypse begins to happen.
It is the Antichrist. So.
It's a wild, very. I don't know if. Tony Rashid said this was a difficult film to watch. It was the imagery and the themes of this one. It has to be said first. Let's just get this out of the way. Lars von Trier has never shied away from talking about his history with mental illness, predominantly chronic severe depression, so clinical depression. He has suffered from it all his life, and his filmmaking and his storytelling has been one of his outlets in how to kind of push through this. Lars von Trier has had many excellent films, but before this and after this, but this one, Antichrist, was the first in what is called his depression trilogy, because he wrote it when he was in a state of extreme depression. He was very, very low. And that's when he wrote this film. And it was followed up by Melancholia and then Nymphomaniac, were the three in the depression trilogy. You can sense the depths of his pain in this movie. The darkness that he was going through is all throughout this, in the characters, in the imagery, in the existential questions that it asks about reality, about life, about trauma, about grief, loss. And the perception of those is as juxtaposed against the reality of these things. And so this one, if you're not prepared for it, I wasn't prepared for it the very first time I watched this back in like 2010. I wasn't prepared for it. This one will hit you in the fucking junk. You will not see it coming, as intense as this is.
Yeah, this is the one. You have a lot of horror filmmakers, and they want to do disturbing images because it's cool, or because it's shocking, because it's cathartic, because it's a whole list of reasons. But this is actually diving into the depths of somebody going through extreme depression. And you see it, and it showcases it. And this is why this film can really get underneath your skin, because you're going through somebody's mind, and you feel it as you go through, and it hits in a way that other films just don't. Like we've all seen decapitations and the most gory and fucked up shit and all this other kind of stuff. We've seen kids do this and that, and it's like, oh, okay, well, they're cool, gory, shocking, whatever. But this it drains you.
Oh yeah,
on it, and that's why it feels so real. Because when you have somebody going through depression, it's a draining of the energy. They don't have the energy to sometimes get out of bed, to bathe, to clothe themselves, to do necessary things, to go to work. And this is what the feel of this film does. It just drains you, and it just gets you on his level. So if you are not ready for it, if you are not in a good headspace, then I would definitely say wait on this film until you are in a place where you can sit and watch it and be able to take it on.
Yeah.
You got to be able to have some extra serotonin to give this movie for sure.
Yeah.
And this movie, like you said, JL, and Eugene, it hits hard because if you've ever struggled with mental health, you know that it can be absolutely devastating for long periods of time, not only to you, but to the people around you, to your reputation in some situations. And then you come out the back end and you got to clean it up. And a lot of times you don't have the energy to do so. It's something that I've always been open with. I've struggled with mental health for a lot of my life. And seeing something like this on the surface, to me, when I see this movie, it's a story of something bad that happens. It's very bad. It can put you, anybody that goes through the loss of a child is going to experience unbelievable trauma. You go through all the stages of grief and you got to come out the back end. But what this movie does is, like you said, the apocalypse kind of starts. It shows you that no matter how deep into it you get, no matter what, you're going to have to keep going. There's going to be something harder to face the next day. And you got to push through that. And if you don't push through it, that's it. The darkness will consume you. And you go through that journey in this movie, and you kind of really, like, depending on the headspace that you're in, you're either going to be like, well, I could understand how you just want to give up, or you could be like, you got to keep fighting, you got to keep going. And that's where this comes in. And you can tell, like you said, Eugene, you can feel everything about what the director was feeling in this movie.
One thing that really, really struck me was obviously that what Von Trier, what hit me. Now, I've never spoken with Von Trier, and of course, he's not really tremendously open about diving into his whole process as to what inspired various things. We can only derive, and he's not really big on talking about going. Obviously, you're in that level of depression. I wouldn't, if I was, I would not be quick to just jump back into trying to explain, and to revisit those moments. But from my interpretation of this is that Gainsbourg essentially is representing himself, representing the depression in and of itself. That nothing you do is right. Everything you do is wrong. You are so disconnected from things that you would even, you're so disconnected that you would even allow what she allows with her child to occur. Right. Completely aware of it. That she would do the thing that she does, that she is nothing but a destructive force. And what your clinical depression is telling you is that horrible mental state in which you are the destructive force in everyone's lives, no matter how hard the people around you, Willem Dafoe's character, is trying to pull you out of that black hole, that you will drag him down, as evidenced by, like what she does to him, when she emasculates him, when she drills the hole through his leg and puts the millstone attached to him, literally attaches a millstone to his fucking leg so that he can't go anywhere. That is what his view of depression was doing, what it was doing to his life, what it was doing to everybody else's lives, and that ultimately his conclusion was, and obviously being in the state that he was in, that the outside world, the people who are trying to help you, the only way for this all to end and for us to finally get to through as demonstrated by the apocalyptic visions, the deer, the fox, the three beggars that showed up, and then of course the way to get through this and get to the final conclusion, get to the final that final moment is for them to be gone. And you walking through that. This is number one, a brilliantly, beautifully shot film and well created, with shocking moments that hit so personally. It's hard. It's hard to articulate in that respect. Walking through somebody's journey like this,
you feel it.
The personal level.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool to see kind of both aspects, from the mental health aspect of it, of like, I'm trash, I'm garbage. You're constantly beating yourself down because you just feel like shit. You know that the people around you are trying to help. You know that they are telling you you're not bad. You're not a terrible person. You're not a burden. But it doesn't feel that way. So seeing it portrayed on screen from the eyes of somebody who understands that feeling is incredible. where it's like, you know that those people are there to help. You know that they're telling you the truth, that they care about you, that they love you, but you don't love yourself enough to be able to believe it fully. And like I said, it's cool to see that aspect portrayed in a film, like you said.
It is. This is a type of film. This is why art exists.
Yes.
And because Antichrist was never a big movie, a blockbuster, and also just, I don't know how, I know it didn't make like $1 billion in theaters or anything like that, but this is exactly why art exists, so that I'm pretty sure it helped him work through stuff, and it allows other people to relate to stuff. It's the same thing as when you look at like music. And you look at albums, say, like one of my favorite albums, Nine Inch Nails' Downward Spiral. You dive into Trent Reznor's mindset at that time of everything that was going on in his life. And it was actually therapeutic, because art makes me feel like I'm not alone, better than, I hate to say it, just people telling you, hey, you're not alone, you're not alone, you're not alone. But you see a movie like Antichrist, you hear an album like Downward Spiral, and it's like, no, I actually relate to this, therefore I'm not alone.
This is exactly what I'm feeling. And that's like, music was always extremely therapeutic to me, because you could find a song where somebody said what you were feeling, and it was like, oh, it's normal. It makes me feel like this is a normal feeling. Other people feel this too. Therefore, there's got to be a way as a collective to get through it, together. But when you're alone, and you got none of that, it's terrifying. You have no idea that there's other people feeling the exact same way as you. And so, like, yeah, art is great in that aspect, whether it be music, literal, like, painting, making a movie, writing a song, just, doing anything that you can express and somebody can relate to, that could save lives, actually.
Yeah.
Definitely.
His willingness to bring us along on this personal journey of his, to work out what he needs to work out. And sometimes these are the things that we have to do. And I'm glad that he was able to do it, because, I mean, once he got past it, he was able to give us the brilliance of Melancholia, which I think arguably is his greatest film, because Melancholia was a tour de force. But we have to go through to get to that point, that we've got to be able to deal with these things. If we just bury them, then it doesn't allow us to get to the best of what we can do, that we can be. And his strength and his, I mean, I know it's cliche to say his bravery, but his willingness to be strong enough to be like, this was me. This was, this is essentially me poured out on paper. And that's what hit me on this one. And, given that there's much in the film that is very surreal, and there is a lot of imagery that you could take away. There's a lot of Christian imagery, there's a lot of Gnostic imagery. And the depths of this film, I mean, this film is miles and miles deep, not just from a psychological perspective, but from just I almost said symbology. What's the symbology there?
Symbology.
And symbolism. And I think the word you're looking for is symbolism. What is the symbolism? Thank you, Willem Dafoe. You rule. Though, yes, I am going to address it, because that was one of the huge facts of this. Apparently, in the reality, sarcasm with us. No, William Dafoe is incredibly well hung, and apparently it required he's unbelievably large, apparently, and it required a penis stunt double. Yeah, in the movie, in order to portray it, because he's hung so the dude's cock is so big that apparently no one would believe it was real.
It's like fucking Marky Mark stick at the end of Boogie Nights.
So they had to bring in a cock stunt double, so that people would be like, I don't believe that's William Dafoe's penis. There's no fucking way. That's not real. Well, apparently, yeah, he is
allegedly.
That's what the word is. That he is unimaginably well hung.
That is one of the biggest flexes I have ever heard.
A big flex. Someone in the live chat was saying that's why he's such a good actor, because no matter what, in the back of his mind is like, you have no idea what it. That's why his character portrayals are always so confident. He is confident in everything he does, because I got a giant. You don't know what I'm packing. David Duchovny ain't got shit on me, because David Duchovny's packing something as well. You see a couple times in the X-Files, David Duchovny wearing, the scene when he's wearing the Speedo and he gets out of the pool and he's walking. I was like, holy fucking shit, got a snake wrapped up in there. But yeah, but one thing that I wanted to the film itself, Antichrist, is so surreal. And while it does have a fairly simple story, the depths of the film are hidden in its surreal cinematography, the symbolism within the film, and the depths of the characters. What Willem Dafoe and Charlotte Gainsbourg, two of the finest actors of probably the last generation, and criminally underrated, both of them.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to get what you guys got from this. Well, I mean, obviously, the stuff centering around the stuff centering around children, I knew was probably going to hit Alex pretty hard. The way that that's handled in that, and of course, it's going to make you look at Charlotte Gainsbourg's character in a whole new light when it's revealed that she was aware. The whole thing, exactly.
Yeah, so, I mean,
but I wanted to get your guys' take, going, just your takeaway, because I mean, after I watched it, I had to sit for like 20 minutes to just digest it.
Well, that puts a whole new spin on things too. You bring the kids into it; it's a little different. And I've got a bunch of kids around me all the time, and I love every single one of them with everything inside of me. And my kids probably saved me. And to, like you said, when you find out what you find out in this movie, it twists everything inside of you. It makes you just fucking angry because because of the way that I feel. And I think me having children at the beginning of this movie, the very first scene in this movie, you pull in kind of like this different feeling, I think, than somebody that doesn't have kids probably wouldn't grasp onto at the beginning of it. So, along with the mental health stuff, you also have the loss of something that you've poured everything, you have into it. When I see tragedies with kids, it's like, man, you spent every day of your life raising that kid for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It doesn't matter how old your kids get, they're still your kids. And to lose all of that you put into that, and then, that person that you love is not going to be there, and that personal hurt that comes with it, but pouring yourself into it and then losing it is hard. And then at the end of it, when you find out what's going on, then you're angry, and you're feeling so many just deep emotions. And they did it with Willem Dafoe in this, and with the cast and the way that everything feels the whole movie. They did such a good job at fucking up your psyche that this movie could, like Eugene was saying, could be dangerous if you're not in the right state of mind when you watch it for the first time. And that's I've watched a lot of horror movies, and this one definitely hit a part of my brain that a lot of movies don't. And I respect that. It was a journey that we went on together, and at the end of it, like you said, sit down, take a fucking minute, remind yourself that it's a movie.
Yes.
Do something that can boost your dopamine a little bit, and then have a good rest of the day, because you can fuck yourself up with this one for sure.
Well, one of the things that actually it really impressed me in diving into just the mental health is, it's one thing where you can write a short song, or you can write something to kind of help process and try to get, because depression comes in waves. On it, you'll be fine. You can be fine. You'll be fine for months, and then all of a sudden it'll just hit you. Sometimes fine for years, and it'll hit you. And usually in that state of mind, you're trying to do anything you can to get out of it. A lot of times you just don't have the energy to. A lot of other stuff stops you.
A lot of times you don't even know you're in it.
Yeah, you can just sink down into it. And the fact that not only did he write it and then went through the entire filmmaking process, it's not a short process. It's not like he can pump one of these films out and it's like, man, I'm in this bad headspace. I need to work this out. Let me pump a film out in a month and maybe I feel better. No.
And then given the level of production quality, I mean, like that, not just the stuff, obviously the stuff in the cabin, but there's a lot of exterior shoots out there. There was a lot of imagery that he had to recreate. The scene with the tree, the sex scene with the tree. Yeah, that's intense shit. You're watching the whole thing coming to life right before your eyes.
That it is you have to stay and you're reminded of that mindset for sometimes it takes an average of about a year and a half, 2 years from the moment you start writing it to the moment it hits theaters. So you're constantly diving back into it for 2 years. I don't know specifically how long it took to make this one, but let's say on average of 2 years. And I know with a lot of musicians have problems getting over it because you write a song, you're in a headspace, you write a song, that song becomes a hit, and then you hear it on the radio all the time. Then you have to play it on stage all the time, and you're constantly being reminded of that headspace again and again.
I can't even imagine.
And again.
I can't even imagine what was going through his head watching dailies.
Yeah,
because you're going through the same, and of course the editing process. Because Lars von Trier is very hands-on, so it's his image, it's his vision. So he's going to be in there, but in the editing suite, seeing these scenes over and over and over, watching them because he's not as huge as a control freak as like Kubrick was, but the imagery has got to be there. But he's of that same artistic bent as Kubrick, where he's got his own demons, and filmmaking is how he deals with those demons. And the same thing went for Kubrick. Kubrick's arguably may have been darker, maybe not sure, but this is how he dealt with it. But just trying to put myself in his headspace as a filmmaker, watching these things over and over and over again, it's like that had to be some kind of personal hell. But holy shit, what he gave us! This is why the genre. This is the genre. This is what it is.
I mean,
to take you to these places.
This is why art exists. Yeah. We talk about so many soulless remakes and paycheck films and all this other kinds of stuff. This is art.
Wild. So, because we're getting about that time, I want to ask the audience real quick. We're talking about Lars von Trier and his Depression trilogy. Number one, the very first one in that, Antichrist, which was an intensely wild film. I mean, it'll hit you in emotional ways that you will not see coming. It's a hardcore one. One of the few films I'd actually recommend that some people probably not watch, just because of the emotional roller coaster that this film will take you on. But arguably one of the best films of since 2009. Probably his second, Lars von Trier's second best film behind Melancholia, which was the second one in this trilogy. But I am curious, I want to ask the audience, for those who have seen these films, what is your favorite of the Depression trilogy? Was it Antichrist? Was it Melancholia? Was it Nymphomaniac, which also starred Charlotte Gainsbourg in that one? And of course, she was in the second one as well. She was in Melancholia. She played Kirsten Dunst's sister in the second one. Kirsten Dunst, who was, holy shit, a tour de force in Melancholia. One of the probably the greatest performances of her entire career. Everything she brought to that role. But this trilogy is horror, art, filmmaking at its absolute finest. Within the past, I would say within the past 15 years, some of the greatest filmmaking I've ever seen. And I got to give it up for Lars von Trier on that. But what's your favorite of the three films? Which one did you like the best? We'd like to know. Let us know in the comments below or at weekinhorror@gmail.com. So, Eugene, it's that time.
All right, to lighten it up a little bit.
Because we're going to give away. Oh, yes. What are we giving away? We are giving away a Shit Gets Real t-shirt because in this particular episode, shit got real. So this is the Week in Horror limited edition number 4 shirt, giving away a Shit Gets Real shirt. So let us know if you haven't won one before. We'll need your size and your shipping information so we get your shirt to you. But also let us know the color that you want it in: blue, green, red, white, black. Let us know the color that you want your shirt in, because this is the first one that we've allowed multiple colors on. So we'll need that information. So for a Week in Horror limited edition number 4 shirt, the Shit Gets Real shirt, take it away, Eugene. What is our trivia question tonight?
Our trivia question is...
Google fingers. Get those Google fingers ready.
Google fingers ready. Lovecraft is seeing a resurgence, and legendary director Richard Stanley is following in Gordon's footsteps. What is the second film Stanley is adapting for his planned Lovecraft trilogy? I'll say it again. Lovecraft is seeing a resurgence, and legendary director Richard Stanley is following in Gordon's footsteps. What is the second film Stanley is adapting for his planned Lovecraft trilogy? What is the second film for his planned Lovecraft trilogy? The first one to pop up in the comments below wins the prize. And keep in mind, listeners, for the podcast, join us Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Central Time. So you can listen to us live, interact directly with us, and you too will have a chance to win the trivia prize.
Let's see who's got the first one. I'm actually going to jump to. I have to jump to the live chat because I want to make sure. Oh, we are one sub away from 500.
Oh my God! If you're not subscribed, subscribe now. Do it. Be number 500. Ding, ding, ding.
And we have a winner.
Ooh.
Let me see here. Okay, so I've got. You know what? Oh, it was so quick. So yes, we do have a winner. So here's the question.
I think you got to go with the whole title.
You think the whole title?
I think it's got to be.
I think you have to go with the whole title.
The whole title on this one.
I think if it was a name, Jeopardy. I always go by Jeopardy rules. So Jeopardy rules, if it's a last name, then you can get it with just a last name. But in terms of a title of something, you have to get the whole title correct.
Gotcha. So yes, I see that, and they came in almost exactly at the same time. I went to the live chat just to make sure we got the right person. So yes, unfortunately, Ivy Gentry, I'm so sorry. I see that you got that word in there, and it's kind of the like it's like one of the operative words of the title. But yes, Jinju is correct. It is the Dunwich Horror, which is being adapted by Richard Stanley as the second in the trilogy. We still don't know what the third one is. I can't wait, but I certainly can't wait for this one, especially since Spectre Vision's behind it. But yes, congratulations to Jinju. We'll write that down. Jinju, and a limited edition number 4 shirt, because we talked about some movies in this one that definitely got real. Shit definitely got real. What's about the Charlie Welch's Island of Dr. Moreau?
Close.
Oh, Ivy Gentry says, but I type like a snail. I'm so sorry, Ivy. But congratulations, Jinju. We will get your limited edition number 4 shirt. Let me know what color you want that shirt in. Go ahead and you can hit me up on Discord or hit us up at weekinhorror@gmail.com. And of course, any changes, definitely confirm your size and let us know if there are any changes to your shipping information so we can update our fan file card. But congratulations to Jinju. You got it, bud. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Nice.
All right. And that, folks, will bring another episode of Week in Horror to a close. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we truly hope you enjoyed the show. Join us next week when actor, writer, and producer Frank Farrell joins us as we look back at Stephen King's Thinner, the giant monster film Q, the remake of The House on Haunted Hill, and the classic 50s monster horror Beast from the Haunted Cave.
It's going to be fun. Dude, Frank is so excited to be on the show. I can't wait to have him on.
Looking forward to Frank. We'd like to send a special shout out to our amazing fucking words in the mouth, words out of the mouth. Got it. We would like to send a special shout out to our amazing patrons who have helped us make this show the success that it has become. We're almost to 500 subscribers on YouTube, which is insane. That is a great milestone. So thank you guys so much. Thank you to our patrons for contributing. Also, you guys go check out Joshua Olsen's new store, www.badsamurai.store. Joshua does all of our amazing artwork for our limited edition t-shirts and has some like super cool designs up on his website. If you can, go help him out. At least share his stuff where you can. Visit us at weekinhorror.net, where you can find links to all of our episodes, our bios, our merch store at Teespring, and of course, enter your email for a permanent entry to win a mystery horror shirt every month, courtesy of $6shirts.com. For more horror entertainment, be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Followers will get our daily splatter, a little bit of horror info every day right to your feed. You never know what new horrors you may discover. Subscribe to our channel and smash that bell like a zombie head for all the latest updates from the show. We really hope you enjoy the new live format, and we'd love to get your feedback. Be sure to leave us a comment below, as the interactions really help us with the dreaded algorithm. I mean, I love you, YouTube. Your algorithm sucks. And lastly, if you truly love what we do here and you would like to and are able to support our production, you can through our Patreon. We have subscriber tiers as low as $1, bonus and exclusive content, and horror films every month for our higher tiers. However, if you'd prefer, you can support the show through our PayPal as well. Links to everything, including our Discord community, where you can find film recommendations, trailers, trivia games, horror watch parties, and even talk with us directly, are in the description. As always, simply commenting, liking, and sharing this show with the friends in your local horror community is the absolute best way to help us continue to grow. Thank you guys all so much for being the greatest audience a podcast could ever have. I'm Alex.
I'm JL.
And I'm Eugene.
We'll see y'all next week. And as always, stay scared.